She hugged a stranger in an alley. He turned out to be a billionaire groom left at the altar. It was supposed to be the happiest day of his life until his bride left him at the altar. In a soaked tux with cameras flashing and a broken heart pounding, he walked into an alley to disappear from the world. But instead, he was hugged by a stranger. A young woman with kind eyes. No questions. No judgment. Just a hug. And that single moment, it changed everything. It was raining that day. The news had just broken. Billionaire tech mogul Callum Beckett had been left at the altar in front of hundreds of guests. Cameras rolled. His world crashed. In a quiet alley just 3 blocks away, Aubrey Hayes was late to her second shift when she saw a man in a tux, soaking in the rain, crying silently. She didn't recognize him at first. She didn't ask. She just walked up to him and hugged him. If you believe in love finding you when you least expect it, stay till the end. This story will break your heart and heal it all at once. The rain poured like grief from the sky, cold, unrelenting, and oddly personal. Callum Beckett didn't feel it. Not the storm, not the sting of water seeping through his expensive tuxedo, not even the eyes of 1,000 strangers who had watched his bride walk away. No explanation. No apology. Just silence and a perfectly timed exit in front of flashing cameras. He turned the corner and found himself in an alley behind the cathedral, away from the world. He didn't know where his feet were taking him. He didn't care. His chest ached, and for the first time in a long time, he let the ache show on his face. That's when she saw him. Aubrey Hayes had just clocked out from the coffee shop 2 streets over, a bag of discounted pastries in hand. She was rushing as usual, soaked from the rain and late for her next shift. But something about the man standing there, head down, drenched in heartbreak, froze her steps. She didn't know him. She didn't ask questions. She didn't even stop to think. She just walked up and wrapped her arms around him. Startled, Callum stiffened. What are you doing?" he croaked, his voice hoarse. "You looked like you needed it," she whispered. "Sometimes people don't need words. Just warmth." He let out a broken laugh. "Do you hug every stranger in an alley?" "No. Just the ones who look like the world forgot how to love them." That line hit him harder than she could know. He stood still, frozen in the moment, as if her touch was the only real thing left. His arms slowly lifted and found their way around her. They stood like that for a minute. Maybe more. When she finally pulled away, she smiled. "You're going to be okay, even if it doesn't feel like it right now." "Who are you?" he asked. "Just someone who's been broken before," she replied, then walked away into the rain like a ghost. He didn't get her name, didn't catch where she went, but her words lingered long after the warmth of her arms faded. 2 weeks had passed since that rainy day. Callum Beckett had returned to his life, or at least the shell of it. The press had moved on, the headlines faded, and the sympathy posts stopped trending. But nothing really went back to normal, not in his mind. He still saw her sometimes. Not in person, but in memory. The hug. The quiet voice. The warmth of a stranger who didn't care that he was a billionaire or a groom left at the altar. Just a man hurting. At night, he'd lay awake wondering why her face stayed with him when his ex-fiancées barely flashed across his thoughts. Still thinking about Allie Girl? Nash, his best friend and business partner, teased one morning as they sat in his office overlooking the city. "I don't even know her name," Callum muttered, scrolling through emails he wasn't really reading. "But you remember her voice," Nash smirked. "Damn, she must have hugged the soul out of you." Callum chuckled for the first time in days. "I don't know," he admitted. "It wasn't about attraction. It was something else. Real." Nash leaned back. "So what are you gonna do? Put out a missing persons report? Looking for woman with arms like therapy?" Callum shook his head. "I'll know her when I see her again. If I'm meant to." Across the city, Aubrey was back to hustling. 2 jobs. No sleep. Paint stains on her hands from custom sneakers she worked on at night. Life didn't pause just because she had a moment with a stranger. She didn't expect to see him again. Billionaire types didn't exactly hang around corner cafes and worn-out laundromats. But fate has a funny sense of humor. One Thursday afternoon, she was rushing across downtown to deliver an emergency coffee order to a corporate office. Some tech firm with a fancy name she didn't bother remembering. The elevator doors opened to the top floor. She stepped out, balancing 3 trays of espresso drinks and trying not to spill, and there he was. Standing by the window, phone to his ear, back turned. But she knew it was him. Something in her chest fluttered in recognition before her brain could even confirm it. He turned, their eyes met. The same rain-heavy gaze. The same quiet surprise. "You," he said, stepping forward. She blinked. "You're real. I've been trying to find you," he breathed. "But I didn't even know your name." She gave a cautious smile. "Aubrielle." Most people just call me Aubrey. I'm Callum, he said, then paused. But I think you already knew that. She raised a brow. Honestly? No clue. I don't really follow rich people weddings. He laughed genuinely this time. I'd offer you a coffee, but you already brought them, she added. Then let me offer you lunch instead. She hesitated. Why? Because the day you hugged me was the first time I didn't feel completely alone. I'd like to thank you properly. Aubrey tilted her head, studying him. She had walls. High ones. But something about him made her lower them just a little. All right, she said softly. One lunch. Lunch turned into more. One lunch turned into walks in the park. Late-night phone calls. Random drop-ins at the cafe. Laughter that came easier. Silence that wasn't heavy anymore. Callum found himself craving Aubrey's presence more than the calm his billion-dollar empire used to give him. With her, he wasn't the jilted tech billionaire. He was just Callum. A man trying to breathe again, and Aubrey, she hadn't let her guard down in years. Life taught her that people leave, promises break, and love costs too much. But with him, she felt seen, heard, held in the small moments. One night, he invited her to his penthouse not as a date, but just to watch a movie and get away from her tiny apartment and her overwhelming reality. She showed up in a hoodie and sneakers. He opened the door in sweats and bare feet. No pretense. No pressure. Just two people craving peace. As the movie played in the background, they sat close on the couch. Too close. His hand found hers, fingers brushing gently, unsure at first, then confidently locking in place. Aubrey turned to him, heart racing. Why do I feel like this matters? Callum didn't blink. Because it does. He leaned in and she didn't pull away. The kiss was soft at first, tentative. Then desperate. His arms wrapped around her as if anchoring himself. Her fingers slid into his hair as if finding home. They didn't speak much after that. The night unfolded slowly, skin against skin, whispers and warmth. Two scarred souls choosing closeness over fear. And in the quiet afterward, tangled in sheets and breathless smiles, she whispered, I'm scared. He kissed her forehead. Me too, but I'm not running. Weeks passed. They kept it private, sacred. But life always finds a way to stir things. Aubrey missed her period. At first, she blamed stress. Then nausea. Then two pink lines confirmed what her heart already suspected. She stood frozen in the tiny bathroom of her apartment, holding the test like it might explode. What the hell do I do now? She whispered to herself. She didn't want to tell Callum yet. Not until she was sure. Not until she figured out how to say, hey, I know you're still healing from a broken engagement and the world's watching your every move, but surprise, I'm pregnant. So she booked a quiet ultrasound appointment. Alone, the nurse smiled as the monitor lit up. You might want to sit back for this. Aubrey blinked. Why? You're having twins. Her hands flew to her mouth. Tears welled in her eyes, part fear, part shock, part joy. I was just trying to survive, she whispered. Now I'm carrying two heartbeats. Aubrey stared at the black and white sonogram photos on her dresser for days before working up the courage to tell him. She didn't fear Callum's reaction, she feared his world. The headlines. The board meetings. The ex-fiancé whose name still popped up in articles linked to his. But secrets don't stay quiet forever. Callum could sense something was different. You've been distant, he said one night over dinner. And you're quieter. That hug in the alley, it saved me. Please don't shut me out now. Her eyes welled up. I'm not shutting you out. I just didn't know how to tell you something that could change everything. He reached for her hand. Then tell me. A long pause. I'm pregnant, she whispered. And it's not just one baby. It's twins. The world tilted for a moment. His breath hitched. His fingers went slack in hers, and then he stood, walked around the table, knelt in front of her, and pressed his forehead to her belly. You have no idea how much this means to me, he murmured. They're the beginning of something I never thought I'd have. Tears slid down her cheeks. I was so scared you'd walk away, she confessed. Callum looked up. I walked away from pain, not from love. And I love you, Aubrey. I think I've loved you since the rain. But not everyone wanted to see Callum happy. 3 days after the pregnancy reveal, she showed up. Callum's ex-fiancée, Harper Vale. Publicist, heiress, ice queen. She walked into his office like she still belonged there. You're making a mistake, Harper said coolly, tossing a tabloid onto his desk. Aubrey's picture plastered on the front. Beneath the words, Coffee girl catches billionaire's baby? Callum narrowed his eyes. Did you do this? Of course. You weren't going to protect your image, so I did it for you. This isn't about image. It's about people. My people. Harper laughed bitterly. That girl will ruin you. Do you even know where she's from? Who her father was? His jaw clenched. I don't care about her past. You should, she said, stepping closer. Because it's tied to yours more than you think. That stopped him cold. What the hell does that mean? She didn't answer. She simply walked away with a smirk, leaving the mystery hanging like a loaded gun. Callum rushed to Aubrey that night, tension in his jaw. I need to ask you something. About your family. Her face paled. Why? Because Harper said something today. And for once, I think she might know something I don't. Aubrey hesitated. My father, he worked for Beckett Holdings. Years ago, he was fired after being falsely accused of leaking company data. He never recovered. And then, he died. Callum stepped back, stunned. That was your father? Richard Hayes. Aubrey nodded slowly. You knew him? I knew the name. My father was the one who pushed that case through. He ruined your family. Silence fell like a hammer between them. Her voice broke. That's why I didn't want to tell you. I didn't want my pain to poison what we have. He took a long breath, then stepped forward. I'm not my father, and I won't let his sins destroy us. She crumbled into his arms, sobbing softly against his chest. The days grew heavy after Harper's return. Aubrey tried to stay calm, protect the twins growing inside her, but the stress was like a shadow in every room. Callum knew it too, and he'd had enough. He showed up at Harper's office unannounced. You've been pulling strings, lurking in the background. Why? He demanded. Harper didn't flinch. Because I never wanted you to marry me. Callum froze. You left me at the altar and vanished. Why didn't you just say that before? Harper sighed, finally dropping her icy guard. Because I didn't leave for me. I left for your mother. What? She begged me to walk away. Said your father had secrets that could destroy you. That marrying me would have tied your legacy to a scandal your family barely covered up. Callum's voice dropped. What scandal? Harper hesitated, then pulled a sealed file from her desk drawer. This, your father embezzled millions. He blamed Aubrey's dad to cover it up. I found out the night before our wedding. Your mother told me if I loved you, I'd let you live clean. I left because I thought it would protect you. Callum was speechless. Harper stood, voice softer than he'd ever heard it. I was selfish, but not in the way you thought. Later that night, Callum sat beside Aubrey, file in his lap, hand on her swollen belly. She was right, he said quietly. My father ruined your family to protect himself, and I've spent my whole life thinking the wrong man was to blame. Aubrey's voice cracked. I wanted to hate you when I found out, but I couldn't, because you're nothing like him. I want to clear your father's name, publicly, legally. I want our kids to grow up knowing their grandfather was a good man. She leaned into him, overwhelmed but relieved. And I want our babies to know you were the first person I ever truly felt safe with. Months later, Aubrey went into labor 2 weeks early. Callum rushed from a board meeting, still wearing his suit and tie when he arrived at the hospital. It was a long night, but when the doctor placed 2 crying newborns in their arms, everything else faded. A boy and a girl, the nurse smiled. Callum looked down at his children and then at Aubrey, eyes filled with tears. I didn't know I could love like this, he whispered. Aubrey smiled weakly. You've always had the heart for it. You just needed the right storm to open it. 1 year later, Callum publicly cleared Richard Hayes' name in front of cameras. Aubrey opened her own nonprofit for single mothers. They held their wedding on the beach at sunset, the twins toddling in matching outfits beside them. And just before their vows, Callum whispered, I never needed a fairy tale. I just needed the woman who hugged me in the alley. 5 years had passed since the day Callum and Aubrey stood on that beach, exchanging vows with their twins giggling at their feet. Their life had become one of balance, between the world of billion-dollar deals and raising 2 beautiful, curious children. Sophia, their fiery daughter, had a sharp mind and a will that rivaled Aubrey's. Lucas, their gentle son, inherited his father's quiet strength but had a knack for getting into trouble. Callum and Aubrey's days were filled with laughter, love, and the kind of peaceful chaos only parents of toddlers understood. And then, one evening, as the family gathered for dinner at the table, Callum glanced at his phone. A headline flashing across his screen. Harper Vale launches new nonprofit. The Redemption Project. Aubrey looked over. That's unexpected. Callum smiled knowingly. Harper's always been good at reinventing herself. This one's for the public, though. She's trying to clean up her image. But she doesn't know. This time, it's too late. The twins were busy bickering over who got the last slice of pizza. But Aubrey's smile softened as she met Callum's eyes. "You've changed, you know," she said quietly. "The man I met that day in the alley, he's not the same. You've built something real, something we can trust." Callum reached across the table, taking her hand. "I only built it because you believed in me." Aubrey smiled and leaned in, brushing her lips against his. "We built it together. All of it." A few days later, Aubrey walked into her office to see a familiar face. Harper stood at the door, holding a bouquet of lilies, the kind Callum had sent Aubrey the day they first met. "Callum said you'd be here," Harper said, her voice quieter than Aubrey had ever heard. "I wanted to apologize for everything." Aubrey raised an eyebrow. "For ruining my father's life? Or for running away from Callum?" Harper nodded. "I was young. I was scared. And I didn't know how to fight the system back then. I thought I was doing the right thing. But I see now, I wasn't." There was a long silence, both women standing in the middle of the room, the weight of the past hanging between them. Finally, Aubrey spoke. "You can't fix what's been broken. But I don't hate you anymore. I just want my family to move forward. I want peace." Harper's eyes softened. "You have it. You're right. I can't fix the past, but I'll do what I can to make things right. For you and Callum. Maybe not now, but someday." With a nod, Harper placed the bouquet on the table and left without another word. 5 years later, Callum, Aubrey, and the twins stood at the top of a mountain, overlooking the sprawling city below. It was a place Callum had always wanted to visit, the perfect spot for a family retreat. Sophia tugged at her dad's sleeve. "Daddy, when can we go back to the beach?" Lucas, who had his father's calm demeanor, added, "Yeah, I like it there. Can we build another sandcastle?" Callum laughed, picking both kids up and lifting them in the air. "Maybe next time. Right now, I just want to enjoy this moment with you too." Aubrey wrapped her arms around him from behind, kissing his cheek. "You've come so far." He turned to face her, his heart full. "So have we. And it's only just beginning." Their journey, filled with pain, surprises, and healing, had come full circle. And now, they were stronger than ever, building their family's future. Not just for the world to see, but for them to cherish forever. If you enjoyed this emotional roller coaster of love, redemption, and second chances, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more thrilling stories. Comment below with your thoughts. Do you think Harper's redemption was genuine? Or was she just playing a long game? Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.